Morning, everyone.
Morning.
Rob, you're muted.
I said, good morning. Wait a minute for everybody to get on. Thank you for letting me know. So Bruce, I got a real serious question for you.
Yeah.
What do I do with all these Finance of America cups?
Jesus. We'll send you some more. We got a lot of them in stock, man. That's
If for what it matters, I always think of you when I see it. Doesn't matter.
yeah, me too. Me too.
But anyway, so I see today we have some special guests on here. I see Jarrett. How you doing, buddy?
Great. How's it going?
Pretty well.
Good.
So this past trip down to Florida, I spent some time getting us some additional coverage out on the West Coast in the Venice area, and I met with this gentleman from Orlando, and Stan Wilson, who covers the greater Orlando area, and it kind of inspired me to talk about today's topic, which is how to use a pillar of your business to get more referrals. And it's kind of ironic that, Robert, you sent me that personal marketing piece, right? Which is all about what?
Well, it's about staying in touch with clients and being, first on their mind.
Right. And, Robert, being around for a while, would you agree that, sometimes, we all take the hard way instead of following the proven way that's going to get us better business?
Yes.
And in my opinion, and this is undeniable for me, you could have different opinions, but getting referral business there's nothing better than that, whether it's from a past client, whether it's from an agent you referred to in Florida who did a great job and then refers you business back. Isn't that like the best feeling that you can have? And aren't those often the best clients that you come across as well? Because they're being referred to you, not because you're on the map there, but because of your reputation and what you've done in the past. So I think I did this sheet here. I'm going to try to put it on this other screen here. In terms of referral business, when I say referral business, what comes to mind? Yeah, I see Lynn there. I want to see if you can tell me, when you say getting referrals, where do you normally think of them as coming from?
I think of them coming from either past clients, people in my sphere, or other agents I've worked with.
Okay. And Rob Garver, when I say referrals, where do you think of referrals coming from?
Well, certainly the three that she just mentioned, and also, one of my favorites of all time was I used to chat up this woman who worked in the deli counter in my supermarket. And one day I came in and she told me she was retiring, and she was thinking that they were going to move down to South Carolina. And I said, well, would you like me to find you an agent? And she was like, oh, that would be wonderful. So I made 2 phone calls, found her an agent, and a few months later, I got a check for $600. And it was nothing more than just being friendly and having it work out.
Right. And I think sometimes, Robert, we might take for granted the law of reciprocity and staying in touch with that agent that you gave a referral to.
Mm-hmm.
I think most agents look at a referral as a transactional piece, right? Robert called me up, I got a lead, I paid him a fee, the transaction's complete, right? How about looking at that from the lens of, hey, I gave Robert a referral down in South Carolina, he paid me. Now I'm like, hey, Robert, do you have any referrals? Anybody looking to sell in New Jersey that I can help? Right? Because this great migration has kind of come full circle. When I was on the West Coast of Florida, I was asking where do most of the people that are leaving go to? And a lot of them are aging out and going back to live with their family in the Northeast.
Yeah.
So that was kind of an eye opener for me. So in that instance, there's an opportunity to refer business back And sometimes, or maybe even more times than not, the people will start looking in the Northeast, right? They'll look to buy something near their kids in, Morristown, and then they have something to sell in Orlando, Venice, Palm Beach, or Fort Lauderdale, and we can make that listing referral backwards as opposed to just going the other direction. Okay. My first pillar, I'm going to broadly define as buyers, sellers, investors, landlords, renters, who we worked with in the past. And when I say those we worked with in the past, it doesn't need to be limited to closings. Because I know we have a lot of people on this call who've taken people out 2, 3, 5 times and weren't able to find a property, or they were outbid. Anybody in that boat? You had a client you took out a handful of times and they got outbid. Why not put them in the same bundle as the clients who did buy houses, right? Because they might buy something, and B, they can certainly be a referral source for us, correct?
Yeah, Bob, I had a client that was relocating to the Mountain Lakes area, and we just couldn't find things that, honestly, they weren't willing to pay the price for what they wanted. So that I never sold them a property, but I did get referrals from them for her parents when they were selling their house down in Maryland, her son when he was buying a house in Chicago, one of their daughters when they were buying a house in Seattle, and a friend of theirs who lived in California who had a property to sell in Newark and another one in Florida. Even though I never did business with the people, they referred me to all of these other people, and I was able to get referral business back from that.
Right. So I think when we look at, and I specifically didn't put past clients, I put buyers, sellers, investors, landlords, and renters, those who we worked with in the past, which doesn't mean they're past clients. So I'm adding to that pool by putting the people who weren't successful in completing a transaction, because we always talk about we're the relationship company, right? We're the relationship mindset. So if they weren't successful in closing on a house because they got outbid, let's not consider them not to be part of our client base. And the second piece is, and this might be controversial, I'm going to put it out there, but I don't really think it is. Include the co-op side of your closed transactions. Okay. So if you are a listing agent, somebody buys your listing, you have the relationship with the seller. Would it be out of bounds to send them a letter saying, hey, congratulations on buying the Smith's house. If I could ever be of any help, or if you have any questions about the house, please reach out to me. Who thinks that's out of bounds if it's not your client? Anybody? Anybody ever done that? I mean, they might call you 18 months. They might call you 18 months into it and say, hey, we're having a problem with the sprinkler system. Robert, do you know who the sellers used for the sprinkler? And, you can try to make a call, and, that's a great excuse to talk to your former seller, right?
Sure.
Then you can get back to the client. And then when they have a need, who are they going to call?
Ghostbusters.
They're going to call
Also,
us.
Rob, you can adopt the buyer sometimes, because usually what happens, the selling agent forgets about the buyer and leaves them out in the cold. So the letter that you send could also go to the buyer who bought the property, even if you're the listing agent.
Well, that's what I was referring to, Ron, that you send it to the buyer saying, if you have any questions about the house, I'll do my best to try to get you an answer. And you have the contact with the seller. If they called you 2 years down the road and said, I know they did a roof repair before I closed, you know who that was, right? You can then get that roofer some more business. You can connect with your former seller and you can add value to the new buyer who is now going to be your client. And
Yeah.
Ron Pickle, I'm gonna ask you some questions. This doesn't need to be accurate to the year, but what's your estimate of how long people stay in a house?
5 to 7 years.
Okay, I think like the national average is probably more like 7, right? And here's the
Yeah.
zinger, Ron. What's the average career for an agent?
Well,
1 year.
if there was,
In 2 years, aren't 93% of them out of the business or some ridiculous statistic?
yeah, somewhere around that 2% of the new agents usually fall off. It just depends on the market conditions. A lot of the, agents, if the market's real good, you'll see a lot of agents new agents come into the market trying to cash in.
But it's clearly a majority of the people who, when that buyer of the house goes to sell, there's a good probability that their agent isn't even in the business anymore, right? When they're ready to sell.
Correct.
And if
That's
they are,
correct.
if there are, there's a high probability that they've abandoned their client, right? They've orphaned their buyer.
I'd say 80% of the time.
Yeah, I think there's a statistic that I read recently. It was like 89% of the people would use their same agents, but only 16% actually do. 16%. I thought that was really low, but that came from NAR.
Yeah, and I think we've been hearing those similar statistics for years. So, Jared, thanks for sharing that, Jared.
But when you reach out to a co-op buyer, I mean, sometimes they're under a buyer broker agreement. Does that have an expiration date, or does that expire when the transaction is done? I mean, ethically speaking, that's what I would think of.
Right, but from an ethics standpoint, we're not soliciting them for business. We're just saying, hey, if there's anything we can do to help, we're here. Right? If they say, I want to work with you, that's their prerogative, right? And hopefully if they have a buyer agreement for 90 days or even a year, they're not going to be selling their house in the first year. Otherwise they really made a mistake. But
Rob,
yes.
it's Audrey.
Audrey, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I'm just wanting to address what you're talking about right now. I mean, I think it's if we're thinking about it that way, it means that the buyer on our from the person on our end would always be having that issue as well. And I think what I do is during a transaction, I can tell whether the buyer and their sellers and their agent has a great relationship or not, because I've had times when they actually reach out to me more than they reach out to their agent. And they've actually reached out to me after. Then I know for sure that they didn't have that kind of relationship with their agent and they don't mind talking to me. Then I have them as somebody who will reach out to me more than once. And then I add them to my list. But otherwise, I don't think I want to do that because I have the philosophy of I want to treat others like I expect people to treat me.
So Audrey, Audrey, let me turn the table and you tell me if you'd be comfortable about this. You listed a property in West Orange, an agent from another company who has integrity. Well, let me turn around. You sold a house in West Orange from an agent that, does a lot of business in the area, right? Who you have to have a relationship with, and you actually think that they're ethical. After the closing, they say, congratulations on buying my house. If there's any questions you have about the house, feel free to reach out to me. I'll see if I can get in touch with the sellers and help you out. Would you be offended if your client said, I got this nice letter from the listing agent?
Well, I mean, I've had people who if I go to their house and I see something from another agent, if they're putting it up in a place where it's prominent and so on, and you stand a chance of them getting more involved with the other agent. I want to establish myself. And
Right.
I'm talking about it from the point of being the sellers. I've sold houses in West Orange. I have one I just closed not too long. And I know the people didn't have such a great relationship with their agent. Now they've reached out to me, and I mean, then I'm okay. But otherwise, I'm not going to go out of my way to reach out to somebody else's client.
So if the listing agent sent your buyer a note saying, hey, if there's anything, any questions you have with the house, or any concerns, I'll wanted to give you my information. I can reach out to the seller, see if I can help you out. And they didn't call them all the time. They didn't, obnoxiously solicit them. Would you be offended by that letter?
I already told them that when I closed with them. I told them anything you want, you call me. Because I reach out to my buyers in that regard all the time.
No, I understand that, but most agents don't. And if somebody sent that letter out, I personally don't think I would be offended by it. If they called them all the time, maybe. But I think, if a co-op agent abandons their client, certainly that's, more fair game for us to build that relationship. But just to say, hey, I want to offer to help if you ever have an issue, because you're the only person that has the seller's contact information practically, right? So is there anyone else that would be offended if somebody just said sent a letter to your buyer and said, hey, if there's anything with the house that you have any questions on, I'll see if I can reach the seller, here's my number?
So I'll be honest, I'd prefer if they didn't, right? Because I don't want them, soliciting my client. However, on my end, if I'm not doing my job of keeping in touch with my buyer, and they end up going to somebody else, then that's on me, right? So I always make sure that I do the right thing by my buyers and reach out to them, several times a year to check in. So yeah, I'd prefer if they didn't, because I don't want people stepping on my turf. But at the same time, if I'm not doing my job of keeping in touch with people, then, that's my fault, right? So
Real estate Darwinism, right?
Yep, exactly. So,
So-
like I said, I prefer if they didn't, but if they did, and I'm still keeping in touch with my buyer, I'm the one who made the relationship, right? So I would hope that, them just reaching out wouldn't make a difference, especially when I'm doing my job of keeping up with them. So.
Wonderful.
Yeah, it's like the other agent said, you got to read when you're at a closing, or, when you're all together, you got to read how the buyer and the buyer's agent react. I mean, sometimes you can tell whether or not, there's a good relationship or not. So, and again, I wouldn't want anybody stepping on my turf either. If it was my buyer, but you can usually tell, if there's a good relationship there between the two.
Wonderful. And this might even be, and I don't know what the practice is in most of the markets, but even if you just showed up to the closing and the other agent didn't show up, they might not even remember their agent. They might, their last memory of the transaction is you, not their agent. So I'm going to move on from that. Next is sphere of influence. Okay, and I think we commonly consider the sphere of influence to be friends and family, right? I want to expand the sphere of influence to professional relationships, okay? Out of area realtors, commercial agents. We have referral companies in New Jersey and Florida. Many of those people that are in our referral company have been recommended to join the referral company from our agents. Why don't we stay in touch with those people that are referring agents to remind them that they can make money by giving us opportunities? Okay. Attorneys, lenders, inspectors, those who we give referrals to. There may be an attorney that works with 15 agents, but most likely the person that's going to get the business, if the attorney has a referral, is the one that actively asks for it. Okay, hey, you know what, Mary or Tom, I've been referring to business for years, please let me know if you have anybody that you can refer to me. And you keep asking that question, you'll probably receive it. Okay. And just like when I go door knocking, maybe there's nobody that is coming to them saying, I need an agent, but maybe you can say, who do you know, Tom or Mary, in your network that is looking to buy or sell that I can help, right? Make them think. And they can think the neighbor 2 doors down is perhaps thinking of buying or selling. Okay.
Hey, Rob,
Yes.
it's Lynn. On that note, because I just had this situation, I have an attorney that I do a lot of work with, and sometimes, excuse me, it's just keeping the relationship with them. Sorry. Keeping the relationship with them, just from time to time, how's your kids?
Mhm.
And, I'm sorry.
No worries. So,
I'll
so
come back.
yeah,
I'll
we'll
come
come back. So, when I went to R4, there's a lot of opportunities to build, referral arrangements and referral relationships with agents outside the area. We have an agent in our organization, Chopper Russo, who goes to a lot of events. And, I took a picture of us at the same restaurant that I met Mark Oram the year before, and sent it to Mark, said, hey, Mark, we miss you here this year. And he's like, oh, you're with Chopper. I'm like, how do you know Chopper? And, through doing commercial business and networking at Remax events, they already had a relationship that predated my relationship with Mark to acquire the office. So those are things that, the top agents are actively doing. Another thing is, commercial agents. Okay, some of us dabble a little bit in commercial, but at certain points, commercial business is a specialty. And if you're selling a, $5 million office building, you probably ought not do it if you've never done commercial business. You would serve your client better by referring it to a qualified agent and then telling that agent, hey, don't forget to send me your residential buyer leads back. Okay. Lynn, are you okay now?
I am, and I just got a nice text from somebody on the meeting asking if I were okay. Between swallowing coffee wrong and allergies, sorry about that. So I just had this where I have an attorney I work with a lot. And in between, because I know he works with a lot of agents, I just send notes sometimes saying, hey, how are the kids? I know he has 2 young kids. So because of that, his in-laws were moving in from out of state, and they needed just a small retirement place. And he wrote to me and he said, I know this isn't really in your wheelhouse, and it's not really the price point you typically work with, but my in-laws are looking for a small villa in the area. And I said, I don't have a specific price point. My job is to help people find their home. And they were lovely to deal with, thank God. We found a place, they appreciated it, but more so, he appreciated it. I know where he lives, so I know not only will he refer me out, it's more likely he'll use me if he chooses to move.
And Lynn, where do you do most of your business?
West Boca, West Delray.
Okay. And
Country clubs. I'm sorry?
And how far would you actually go to take a listing or work with a buyer?
I would probably personally do it as far north as Jupiter because I have familiarity between here and there. Beyond that, I would refer it out.
And how about going south?
I don't know a lot about Broward County. I'd probably refer that out.
Would you do Boca?
Yeah, I do Boca. I do
Okay.
a lot of work in Boca.
Because originally you said Delray and where else?
West Boca.
Oh, West Boca and
It's
Delray.
where I
Okay.
do the most work, but I also go east.
So has anyone ever had somebody who is a raving fan, a referral source of theirs, refer something out to somebody because they didn't think you covered that area?
Yeah. Hey, guys. So a lot of times we get caught up in promoting ourselves a certain type of way. And what that does sometimes is people start to associate you with the brand you're creating. So if it doesn't look like you're doing deals that are $500,000 and $600,000, they won't refer that to you. I just got a referral yesterday for a doctor coming over from San Francisco from an agent in Miami that he's friends with the son. Now, that agent in Miami will sell the son a home somewhere between Boca and Delray, and he's going to send me the client for Sarasota. And I've already, connected with the client. The thing is, that agent just had somebody for over here and didn't refer me a client for 500,000. So it's interesting to see what people, how they find you and how they think of you and what you focus on. So it's very important to let these people know, you can help them and their clients with all price points.
Right. I mean, I've seen people say, "Hey, you're this town specific, like Robert Garver, you're a Boonton Mountain Lakes expert. I didn't know you would cover a home in Mount Olive. We had this $900,000 home in Mount Olive. I didn't think you'd go there, but I'm going to ask you, Robert, would you go to Mount Olive for a $900,000 listing?"
I'm out the door already.
Right, but do you understand kind of what I'm saying? And sometimes we can't take for granted. And I've been there a lot of times where people are hurt, and I think they're hurt because somebody didn't think of them, but they thought of them as being something else. Like they might think of you, David, as, oh, you do higher end stuff. Would you do a 500? Like those things are unfortunate that people do that, but the only way that we can control that is by our own messaging, right? And having conversations.
So this reminds me of R4 when we connected, and how I was just with Chopper before I saw you with Kelly. Some of most of my referrals come from other agents. Since coming over from Sotheby's to the Remax network, I've spent a lot of time building rapport and building raving fans from other agents in other markets. One of the things we do between the referral network and outside of that is we do retreats, and it's not just masterminding, but we focus on the relationship. The referrals all follow. So last year, 70% of my business on the West Coast, as I continue to expand here, 70% came from other Remax agents or other agents, in other firms that I was with from over the years. But 70%, I don't think most people's business comes that way, but it's because I spend a lot of time on the phone and in person with these agents, building these relationships. I think, like you said, most agents think of these referrals as very transactional. I think about building long-lasting relationships and the raving fan mindset, and they just keep coming. And then all of a sudden, they only think of you for that area. So I like to be the person that people think of for referrals in general. Like, just become the referral person for your market and let people know, even if they're not sure if you cover it, have them call you first, and then you'll connect them with somebody else if you can't service it.
So David, over the past couple of years, what's the average amount of referral transactions that you've done in a year?
I do about anywhere from 15 to 30 referrals a year, personally.
And what's the average transaction size, just so the audience can get an idea?
So on the East Coast, I'm originally, guys, from Miami Beach, and I built my business up into Boca Del Rey, and then now we've expanded to the West Coast. So it depends on what we're talking about. On the East Coast business, I would say the average referral is between 700 to 2 million. Just like Lynn said, she does West Boca. Those are a lot of West Boca, West Del Rey deals. And then on the West Coast, it runs the full gamut. I just got 3 very small referrals in the $300,000 range. And I just got a $2 million referral yesterday. I would say a lot of them are 7, 8, 9.
So it's easy to say it's at least 10 transactions at 700,000, which is $7 million minimum of business, right?
Yes.
And anyone on this call would love to have an extra $7 million worth of business.
But everybody on this call is not going to take the time out of their day, out of their own, the bubble that they've built that's around them, their business, their mindset. They're not going to step out of their comfort zone and pick up the phone and start making 2-3 hours of calls to these people who will become raving fans, who are going to turn around and start calling them and creating this kind of web which can be done. It's not difficult. It's just they got to make it, you know, part of their daily routine. Just like you go to the gym an hour a day, you know, pick up the phone and spend time with your referral partners an hour a day. This is a very, very smart way of making a long-term commitment to yourself and adding, you know, deals to your year every year.
Yep. And let me see here. I'm just scanning the audience here to see if there's anybody I was out knocking with recently. Don't see anybody. But when I go out and do outreach to you know, neighbors, and this is really a flash of the obvious, right? I look at, you know, I see Danielle Coyle super busy on this call. Danielle's primary market is listings and wall, right? And if you want to get listings in wall, you know where your client base is, right? They're the homeowners in that town. The flip side to that is if you want to get buyer business, let's see if I can fix this. If you want to get buyer business, you need to know where your buyers are coming from, right? So how many of us know where the buyers are coming from in their market? Who wants to just volunteer? So Lynn, where are your buyers coming from?
If they're not moving locally and upsizing or downsizing, they're coming mostly from New Jersey, New York, Massachusetts, and California.
Okay. And you know if they come from like the Jersey Shore down south, the greater Philadelphia area, or primarily the greater New York area?
More the New York area.
Okay. So if you know your buyers are coming from the greater New York area, right? Have you ever reached out to a bunch of agents in those different counties and said, hey, if you have anybody coming down to these areas, I can help you out?
Not as much as I should have. Just a
Right.
couple.
Right, but this is where I'm trying to expand our vision of what's possible, right? So
Yeah.
if you were able to talk, like, I'm sure you got referrals from that area, right?
Sure.
And I'm guessing that, I'm not putting you on the spot, but I'm guessing that
That's okay.
you might have looked at it from a more transactional basis, said, thanks for the referral, I really appreciate it, but you don't call them once a quarter and say, hey, just want to see how things are going. Do you know of anybody I could help looking to move in this area?
Not once a quarter, maybe twice a year, I send a text just saying, hope you're doing well, and if you know anybody still looking in this area.
So I'm gonna push you a little bit, Lynn, and say a text is different from a call.
Absolutely, I agree.
It's very impersonal. You know, you
Mhm.
could have been doing that in the ShopRite line or the Publix line just because you had nothing to do. But it takes a little bit more of an initiative. It's more of a relationship if you reach out and call them.
Yes, I agree.
And another opportunity that you can do is you can say, you know, I'm your quarterback for Florida. And you might say, why am I going to do that, right? Do you know somebody, who do you give transactions to in Broward County? Do you have somebody
I
that you
actually
go to?
I haven't had anyone in Broward County at this point.
No, but if somebody said that they wanted to buy in if somebody, one of your Northeast relationships said they wanted to buy in Broward County, would you just say, I don't cover that area and hang up?
No, with buyers, I would probably go in. I wouldn't take a listing. I would refer a listing, but if they were
Okay, so-
buying, I would go
Right,
in.
so if it's a listing, right, and they want to buy in South Broward County, what are you gonna do? Say, I don't cover that area?
I think it would depend on how far down, because I'm pretty close to the border. I might learn about it. If not, I'd probably contact our Parkland office and see if there was someone that fit the right mold for the buyer.
Right, but perhaps, maybe, Lynn, you can reach out to somebody in Broward County, you know, hopefully with our company, but if not, somebody that is congruent with who you want to work with. Say, hey, if I have any people that are moving down here, or any of my referral sources have a Broward County or Dade County referral, I'm gonna hand it off to you. By the way, if you have anybody that is looking in Miami or Broward, and then they decide to move up to Jupiter or, you know, Boca Del Rey area, please keep me in mind. Would that not be a less than obvious referral source?
Absolutely. It was a great idea.
And most of us don't do that. Most of us just say, I don't cover that area. And I've overheard those calls. So I'm just putting ideas out there because if you build a strong relationship with somebody, you know, a lot of agents won't work with a buyer if they sell their house in Davie. They won't work with them if they're buying in Delray, because that's not their coverage area. Some will, some won't. When you're building that relationship, you probably want to find the ones that aren't, you know, going too far out of their area, so they will give you those referrals.
I don't know anyone who would not think, I mean, being a Remax agent, you got to think about, you know, if somebody should call you and they ask you, well, we're looking to buy in Port St. Lucie or Fort Myers or Naples. Well, I don't work that area. See you later. I mean, it should be a natural reflex.
My,
when you
my
think-
mind, hearing Lynn speak, Ron, Rob, Lynn, my mind is just blown. I've been with this network for just 2 years, and I have a referral partner in like almost every inch of, forget about Florida's major markets, but throughout the US, Canada, Mexico, South America, a lot of Europe. I mean, it is so important. This is going back to R4, Luxury Forum, any other Remax event you can go to and just build your name, but you're going to build relationships, for first and foremost, friendships with top producing agents that are investing in their business, that you now can say, not only you can refer them, but you've spent time with, you've hung out, you've gone to dinner, drinks, coffee, lunch, breakfast. You know this person's way, you know exactly what type of client would work well with this agent. Like you say Fort Lauderdale, and immediately I think of 5 different Remax agents, Boca, you know, Ocala, Pensacola, boom, boom, because these people are on other masterminds with me. They're on social media. I'm congratulating them on. Another thing I love to do, which is great for this example, is congratulating other agents every time they post a deal that they've just closed. Just say, well done, bravo, congratulations. I see you, you know, I see what you're doing. Keep it up. And then they're going to continue to think of you. Yesterday, one of my agents coming on board asked me, do you have somebody in Jacksonville? And I said, yeah, an elite agent just connected with me, Katie Hughes, you know, and I was just with her in Jacksonville. She's fantastic, and connecting the dots right there within the team. So I think everybody should spend some time building these relationships and connecting with agents, you know, in, you know, markets are all over, but especially, you know, 2 counties over, a county over. I mean, we're talking very close.
Yeah, I mean, whenever, like I was saying, whenever someone, you know, calls you and they want you to find them a house or list their house in a different county or it's miles away, you know, the first reflex that you're going to have is to refer them to another agent in that area. No, I don't really work that neighborhood, but I would like to, I have a good Remax agent, or I have an agent in that area I can place you with. Give me your information. Let me see what I can do. You know, I never let anything slip through my fingers, especially something like that. Too important.
Rob, I agree with what David had said. Also, whenever anyone asks about an outside area, my first answer is absolutely. I have a Remax agent over there, and I've been to R4 many years. We actually, this last R4, one of the agents I met, I've already referred a listing to right now. That buyer's coming down here, and I got him through the lead generation. So I'm handling the buyer, and I referred a listing just from this last R4, and it's amazing. And by the way, Lynn, I'm in Broward County Central. So if you need anybody, Davie, West Broward, I'm your man.
Thanks, Scott.
Way to go, Scotty, baby. That's the way to go.
So I'm going to give a shout out to Scott, who just double ended it. Was it $3.85 million transaction?
It ended up being 3.7, close enough.
$3.7 million transaction, your biggest ever, right?
Yes, it was. Yeah.
And I want to just take a little excerpt from that. It wasn't easy, was it? You had limited offers, right?
Yes.
And when you got the first offer, you worked the other offers. And how many offers did you have at the end? Was there 2
I
or
ended
3?
up with 3 offers. I went from 0 to 3 in 1 week by playing one against the other. And once I had the first one, which was the lowest one, I was able to go back to the other 2, let them know I had something in writing and they needed to get off the fence and basically push. I got my next two offers, which were higher but lower, but then was able to counter both and get to the 3.7. We did end up with the backup of 3.85 because I did such a good job that person was so upset that they missed it, that they came in with that number, but we had executed literally hours before. And so they just missed it.
So anyway, you know, sometimes when things seem bleak, you need to keep your mindset positive and you need to work the deals. I just wish that you were in Congress because more stuff would get done the way you work that transaction.
I agree.
Okay, so if anybody has any, you know, referrals, high end, you know, Scott's one of our high end specialists now. Congrats. And again, I was very impressed to hear about, you know, how people might think that that was simple and what a lot of money you made, but you really worked your butt off and you had to use a lot of creative negotiating techniques to get that done. Congrats.
Absolutely. I lost more hair and I didn't have much to start with.
Well done.
Oh, I want to revisit this site that I don't think enough of us utilize it for the next topic, which is where are your clients coming from, right? And I'm going to go into Florida and let's see, Sarasota County is, that's where Welland Park is, David? Maybe David's on mute. But here's where, you know, the place that we went and looked at, here's where the buyers are coming from that go to Sarasota County. They go from Cook County, Illinois, which I believe is Chicago, Fairfield, Connecticut, Oakland County, Michigan, New York County, New York, and Fairfax, Virginia. So as David moves to grow that incoming referral business, I would try to find some agents up in that area.
So I have agents in every one of those markets. And one of the things and why I have them is because I travel to these markets and stop in at these offices, even if I don't have appointments, and connect with the managing broker, take them out. If I can find the owner broker, take them out and talk to them about who is who is the movers and shakers in that office and who do I need to know, because they're going to be losing money if they don't have somebody down here. Their clients are already on their way down, so they should be involved and get that 25% referral fee.
Wonderful. And then your clients that are selling there are going to Manatee, Sumner, I don't even know where Buncombe, North Carolina is, Marion, Florida, and Henderson, North Carolina. So it seems like North Carolina is the halfway back that a lot of the people are leaving Sarasota County for. So this site is howmoneywalks.com. It's a free site. I would encourage you to look at this. Unfortunately, it doesn't go down to the city level, but it goes to the county level. You know, we can go into Broward County and we can see people that moved to Broward County are coming from, surprise, Miami, Queens County, New York County, Illinois, and Nassau County, which is Long Island. And when they moved primarily up the coast, Palm Beach, St. Lucie, Lee County, Orange County, and Martin County. So if you're in, Broward, these are where you might want to have some referral sources, and you can go to this site. It's great to have a resource that doesn't cost you anything. It's howmoneywalks.com. It's really simple to use. You log into the page, what it looks like. You come down to the bottom right and you go to the interactive map.
Where I live,
Okay. So there's another way to build these referral sources. The reason I was looking for people I went door knocking with, I went with Steve Van Ness and Ryan Baker last Thursday, I believe it was. No, it was Thursday or Monday. I can't remember. And we did it for 2 hours. Nobody was upset or nasty about the fact that we door knocked. And there were several people that have been there for 20 years or more. And every time somebody is there for 20 years or more, I'm programmed to ask one question. Does anybody know what question I ask when they've been there that long? One unique question, and that is, how many real estate agents have knocked on your door in the 28 years or the 20 years or the 35 years you've been here And it's almost, and I mean like 97%, I've never had a realtor knock on my door. And I say this is not a door knocking class, but this is a class about if you went to real estate offices and agents up in the areas where people are moving to your area from and started to have those relationships, say, hey, I want to be the person you refer to if anybody moves down to these 3 counties in Florida, or if you want to even be bolder and say the entire state of Florida, if you have anybody moving to Florida, I have connections. I can refer them to qualified people throughout the state to make your life easy. Who would love that? I would. And even if David Holler doesn't cover St. Lucie, right? You might have somebody that you can say, hey, I got a call. Somebody's looking to move from Chicago to Martin County. They want to buy in Port St. Lucie. You make that connection. You have 2 happy people that are going to have that need to reciprocate and give you something. Would you agree?
I do that all the time. Yesterday, somebody who's just sent me a real estate survival box from St. Louis. She connected me with something a while ago. I was just thinking about her. Boom, I see something in the mail. I was able to connect her with another agent that was asking me for St. Louis. There's so many ways to leverage, especially our agents. One of the things I love to do when I after I've done one deal or referred one, closed one, is start to tell people that I have a partner in another market. The moment you start referring them to people as a partner in that market, they feel a lot more comfortable, stay involved. A lot of times I follow up and I see how everything worked out. And I mean, just 90% or more don't do this.
And David, would you refer to somebody who pays you a high referral fee and does a lousy job?
Never. It's anybody that typically people that are offering a higher referral fee are not doing enough business. So, that's what I noticed. There's a couple in Delray that went around promoting themselves at a convention recently, and they said, we pay more referrals out than anybody else. I said, because you're promoting yourselves like you're a discount broker and you're giving away all your commission. You can't, if you do it the job right and you build the relationships correctly, you don't need to give away money.
And I just am curious how many participants on our call today have actually gone to visit more than one office from an area where a lot of your buyers come from. So we have Scott and David. Anybody else? There's a huge opportunity. And from talking to you, David, this part here, be a matchmaker, came from you, because if you can be the point person for all of Florida and then make those connections, the law of reciprocity is going to give you abundant business.
Yeah, I saw, is it Jarrett West, the gentleman you just connected with in Orlando?
Yes.
Yeah. So Orlando pops up on referrals a ton. The West Coast of Florida, yes, but then beyond South Florida, Orlando is probably one of the fastest growing markets we have in the state. There's so many communities. I would say 99% of agents in South Florida don't know about. So if you don't have a referral partner in Orlando, I mean, you definitely need to connect with him or ask me who I work with very closely. I have probably 4 or 5 very good referral partners on, in Central Florida. But it's unbelievable, the opportunities here. And then you're going to say, wait, I have another 2 deals this month. How did it happen? Because you invested in trying to help other people. It's going to come right back to you.
Right. And David, Jared, are you able to talk now for a moment?
I am. David, where are you located?
I'm in Sarasota.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I did the map for Orange County, Orlando, and the top 2 places are Miami and Broward. That's where people are coming from to come here. And then Queens and the Bronx are, in the top 5.
Jared, do you remember when I talked to you about if I were in your shoes looking to join our opportunity, one thing that I think would be massive was to do an education on how to buy and utilize an Airbnb. And you showed me that you already had was it a Facebook group or a website for that?
Yep, yeah, it's a Facebook group. I mean, I post on it regularly. I mean,
What,
you
what
know,
is the,
I
gr-
will actually,
what is the group called? Just so people know I'm not like making this up.
sure, sure. It's, hold on, let me get the exact name of it because I put a lot of words in it so that it would come up on more searches, right? So it is Orlando, Florida. I said Orlando, Florida, second homes / short-term rentals / new construction / real estate. So maybe if you're searching in any one of those things, it may come up. And you know, on a regular,
Maybe you want to add Airbnb to that.
probably that's a great idea because you know I know from my experience, you know, when I take on clients who are buying an Airbnb, you know, short-term rental for the first time, you know, I was given the advice that you know it's not that hard to manage if you have the time, because you know 90% of your sellers, I mean your occupants, your renters, they come from Airbnb and VRBO. I mean, and those guys, they collect taxes for you, they make the bookings and everything like that. So
Right. So, but if you can educate people in the Northeast that want to go down there twice a year, once a year,
mhm.
and then have it as an income producing property, you know, it might be an investment and an emotional decision. That's a value add. And then if you get a referral fee because you do an excellent job at what you do, you know, that's just building brand value for yourself and making that referral.
Yeah, 100%. You know, if I'm involved with this group, I would like to do something on a regular basis, maybe once a quarter. You know, I could put together, you know, a webinar. Whoever wants to know about, you know, there's a lot of details. You know, the property types, the management styles.
So Jared,
bookings.
that might be a great, we do these peer-to-peer meetings, you know, and we can interview you then. And I'd be excited to do that. And before I go on to my next topic, David, would you be open to doing a peer-to-peer to share how you build the referral brand? Because I knew you did a great brand, a great business, but if you would be willing to like break it down and share it with our group, not to put you on the spot.
Yeah, we can talk about that. I can figure out something. No
Can
problem.
I ask David one question? I've been trying to get in the question.
Go ahead.
All right. Hey, name is Robert. I'm up in Jersey. I live literally 7 minutes from the New York line. I spent a lot of time there socially. When you go, so I'm listening to you and I'm thinking, I lose a lot of people to New York, so I'm literally that close. When you look for another agent in another market, are you looking just for one agent or are you looking for a bunch of agents? That's question one. And two, in a different market, I don't mean in Florida, because you probably have access to other MLSs, but you mentioned other states. How do you know you're not getting a deadbeat agent? Those are my questions when you start looking for one to be a referral partner.
So if I'm going to say New Jersey, so I used to be the director of new development for Sotheby's. So because of that, in South Florida, based out of Miami to Boca. So because of that, I met with brokers across the country, and I could easily start to figure out who are the people that I needed to connect with and spend more time with. So I've now translated that to the Remax, you know, group of agents. And if I were to go to, let's just say Montclair, I would, first things first, I would say hello, whoever's at the front desk, and ask for the managing broker. And I would quickly figure out who's the top, you know, top people there. And out of there, I would try to see who's available to meet me. Maybe not at that moment. Maybe it'll be the next few days while I'm in town, but I'll interview them. I'll take them out. I'll get to know them, and I'll see who's the right vibe for me, and who do I want to spend time building rapport with as time goes on after I've left this trip. I'll know the type of person that I want to build that relationship with. I'll know the type of people that clients I would want to work with, and the people who will have clients that I would work well with, or agents on my team would work well with. And so you can quickly realize that an agent's a producer, an agent has, you know, a healthy book of business. They know what they're doing, and they're going to be somebody that I'm going to align with.
Well, how many different agents in that, let's just say Montclair, that's happened to be Essex County. How many different agents in that market do you want to hook up with? Are you just getting hooked up with one? Or are you trying to get numerous?
So ideally, if they're solid, if they're quality, you know, it would be great to have one person to build that strong relationship with. It just depends on what type of business they do, how many people they know, again, because we're in this business, God willing, even if you retire, you're never really retired, you're always going to get referral business. I want to build tons of relationships everywhere I go. But if I have one really, really amazing agent, I'm going to focus my relationship on them. They're going to keep feeding me.
All right, thank you.
You got it.
All right, so I want to go through the rest of my material, then I'll stay on for questions. Like specializations are just like geographic referrals, right? If you have somebody that specializes in the luxury market, right? And let's just say that you're a newer agent or you've never done a super high-end property. I would highly, highly recommend that you partner up with somebody in our company that's done high-end properties because if you split it 50-50, half a commission is better than no commission all day long. And you get to see what the people who specialize in that area do. Okay. Commercial opportunities. We are uniquely positioned, like we're in some of the wealthiest counties in the country. And the people who are buying second homes, who are moving to Florida, who live in northern New Jersey, the suburbs of Manhattan, these are the wealthy people that control a lot of commercial real estate. And sometimes we don't know it because we don't ask, right? We work with CEOs, CFOs, entrepreneurs, and, getting that real estate, that commercial business is just found revenue, right? And then if you refer to somebody that does specialize in commercial, hopefully when there's a residential deal, even if you're both in the same office, you'll get that residential transaction, okay? So we have luxury, commercial, distressed properties, any of these specializations, to do one distressed transaction is probably not worth it because you have a learning curve that's going to cost you money to do that. And you might not be doing the best job. You're better off referring that out and maybe that person will refer your business back. That's just my thoughts. And then redefining 2023 sphere of influence. Okay. I'm going to start with the bottom, which is networking, right? BNI, LATIP, community service, professional organizations. The next one, which is very traditional, is farming. But the new social and marketing influence is social media and video, because you can reach so many people at a very, very low cost by using social media and video. And if you want to have like a little bit of a refresher on this, go back to our page where Glenn Baker talked to us about how he's using video to get business. Okay. So those are some things that maybe we don't think of as, our sphere of influence and how do we touch them? Okay. You can have a sphere of influence, which are friends of friends that are like on your Facebook page or friends of friends that are in your geographic area that are seeing your social media posts and your video posts. Okay. It doesn't have to be all meeting in person. And then, the third pillar of prospecting, in my opinion, and this is not an absolute, but we have people doing cold calling, which is absolute grind. It does generate business. It's about the consistency, and it's about the quality of the communication, not about the volume of the calls, in my opinion. Another way would be, blanket door knocking, which is more transactional, where you go in an area and win a door knock. You just want to try to get a transaction there as opposed to building a farm and a relationship. And then the last piece, which I think a lot of us overlook, is the value of open houses. Okay, we had Heather Corrigan on and talk about open houses and how much business she got. I think, transactions, people she met at open houses. I think she said it was something like 9 or 13 transactions in the period of a year from doing quality open houses on a strategic level. Okay, so these are some ideas and some pillars that, sometimes we may take for granted. And I would encourage you not to try to do everything, but try to do a few things and do them really well at a high level. And a really eye-opening pro tip is take a look at where your business came from the past 12 and 24 months. This past 12 months has been a little bit of a transition market, but if you look at the past year, and then you go back and look at the 12 months before that, look at where your business is coming from, okay? And lean into that and say, do I want to get more business from what's working for me? Or do I want to see opportunities for things that I haven't done to the level I should be? Okay, so that's an introspective look at your business and how you can grow it, you know, by just taking a step out. And instead of running faster, let's redirection ourselves so that we're going in the right direction, sharpen the saw, and be a little bit more purposeful and specific. Okay. Sometimes we're so busy, we don't know where our business came from. Anybody have any questions? Was this topic helpful for any of you? And do any of you have a big takeaway from it?
Rob, I'd like to just add a couple of things in that, in your last list of cold calling. So I've been playing around in my mind with an idea. It's more of like warm calling, where you're reaching out to agents that you may have developed relationships with over the years, agents that you've done other business with, who are in different areas than where you are. And if you call them on a fairly regular basis and see what's going on with them, it may very well be that they're working on something that would be beneficial to one of your clients. And that's an easy call to make because you guys know each other already. And it's good to strengthen the relationships, as we've heard, from David about, building that relationship and rapport with agents in different areas. I mean, there's nothing better than that. I was telling Rob that, I needed a house, a certain type of house in a certain price point in a certain town for one of my clients. And I called up an agent that I've done business with in the past that I've established a relationship with, and I told him what I needed, and he said, "You're not going to believe it, but I'm on my way out the door right now to look at that house." And so as soon as I get that information, I'll get it over to you. And I kind of owe you for what's gone on with us, between us in the past. So, I'll get your people in first. So these are the types of things, they're easy to do. You just have to, make the call and keep that relationship going.
Now, Robert, one thing that comes to mind when you talk about that relationship that you have, and that person was with a different company. They were they had a significant market share where you do your business. Does it behoove us not to have a good relationship with the other agents in our current marketplace and have a healthy competition that's above board, right? I think it does.
Absolutely it does, and because, as in every other instance, I mean, if you have a good relationship with an agent who's got a listing that your buyer wants to buy, and that listing agent knows you and knows what you're capable of, I mean, that's just a plus for your buyer to live off of your good reputation.
Yep. So that's another, piece of opportunity, especially in this tight inventory market where you can put transactions together through the relationships that you have and the knowledge you have of who does business in those markets.
I think that there's also an opportunity, like when you mentioned working with commercial, for companies that are moving to our area. And there are a lot of companies moving to Florida now, especially out of California, because we don't have state tax and we're offering all kinds of incentives. But if you hook up with a commercial agent who can keep you on track with that kind of information, you can then approach the company and offer them your services to tour their prospective employees that they want to come here with to join their company. It's a way of going into the relocation business, and you can capture a whole company and do that marketing for them.
Rob, one thing that I didn't hear is that all the offices that are connected together with your companies on the hub, they're there, right? We can reach in to see which South Florida offices are in the hub.
Yep. So yeah, we really try to make it available, and I think sometimes it needs to be a little bit more intentional. It's better if you have that relationship before the lead comes in, as opposed to scrambling to find somebody to refer it to. And when I was thinking about, I'll come back in a second. When I was thinking about what David Holler is doing, if David Holler was going to be like a pin person for, a lot of areas in Florida where we don't have offices because you have connections. If you got a lead from Robert Littman in Closter for somebody who wanted to buy in Tallahassee, right? You make that connection, everybody wins. The agent in Tallahassee, that's your referral agent, is going to be like, wow, David just gave me another deal, even though it was through somebody else. Robert Littman's going to have a contact with somebody in Tallahassee. If somebody is looking to go to Tallahassee and needs to list a house in North Jersey, Robert, you're getting that lead if you keep in touch, right? Everybody wins. So
Yeah, it's my pleasure. If anybody wants to, connect with me after this call and let me be your source for, a referral agent in any market. If you guys have recently spoken to somebody and you don't know who to call in any market, I mean, I've spent the time, I've spent the effort and the money to build these relationships for a long time, even before I came over to Remax. So it'd be my pleasure to connect you with the right people in every market.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. Now, if somebody had was that Scott, were you asking a question before I interrupted you? All right. Does anybody else have any questions before we wrap it up today? All right, everybody have a fantastic weekend. I gotta say, I love working with such a talented group of people who are passionate, elite professionals and, willing to dedicate an hour or more a week to learning and sharing. So thanks, everybody.
Guys, have a good day.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Have a great
good
day.
day.
Happy Mother's